Welcome to Leader in the Studio, the Emirates edition, where executives from Avenue Code travel around the world to interview IT leaders to share with you the industry trends, inspiring stories, what drove them and motivated them into their journey, and even personal stories that they only will share with us over here. My name is Leo Solomon, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and the founder of Avenue Code. And I'm so excited to be here in Dubai to interview Hilal Ismail. He is the CTO of Ilfan. It's actually, I'm not going to introduce the company. I would like him to introduce us. So, hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hilal. So tell us a little bit more about Ilfan. And I know that you recently joined as a startup in the content management creations, and would like to hear from you about it. And I want to lead with that to your previous experience with the mobility industry.
Sure. So Alfan, we are a startup in the creator economy. The creator economy, actually, it's a new terminology. This is it's $100 billion market. Today, everyone with a camera and a microphone can become a content creator. And people are working to monetize their content. And our mission is to help the individual creators to better understand their audiences, better monetize, understand the analytics, understand the financials, especially with someone who's trying to grow their content across different channels, different social networks. The friction points are increasing. And what we're doing is we're trying to consolidate all those things under one platform so that we make it easy for the content creators to focus on what they're good at, which is creating the content, while we take care of all the hustle of all the other things.
That's amazing. And so prior you're working with Alfan, you've done a great strides in disrupting the transportation industry in the Middle East, and we know about Uber and the likes. So tell us a little bit more about that history of yours.
So I joined Careem around 4 or 5 years ago, just before the Uber acquisition, and I was mainly responsible for leading the technology for building Careem's mass transportation vertical. So Careem was mainly just focused on ride-hailing, and then became the vision of let's build the super app for the region, which never existed before. So we started expanding into payments and to so many other verticals, and it made a lot of sense to look at mass transportation. So I joined Careem to build their mass transportation vertical, and I was taking care of the tech aspect. We did so, and we had a huge success in mass transportation. And then post-acquisition, I moved from Careem to Kafu, which is another startup here in the region. Kafu is focused on building gas station on 4 wheels, basically building the Uber for fuel or mobility of automotive services.
That's very interesting. You have to tell us more about that.
So think of it as follows. Today you can order food from your app, from your phone. You can order a cab, taxi from your phone. What we thought of is, why don't we bring fuel to your doorstep? So the idea came in, we were able to implement it, and then we expanded from just delivering fuel into other automotive-related services. So anything that you can get in a gas station, you can get it through an app. Whether it's fuel, it's car wash, it's maintenance, you name it.
Skittles, whatever you can get from gas stations. M&Ms, no.
Why not?
So, but that's very interesting. So I can literally order some sort of a gas truck to show up to my house and fill my car and my boat and everything else. I don't have any of that, but assuming that I would be blessed to have that.
We actually did cars and boats.
That's amazing. I don't think we have that in the United States, actually. So that's very very refreshing to see that you've done it. And how successful was that? Tell us more about it.
In numbers, so there are other companies doing the same globally. There are a few in the States, but Kafu is by far the biggest globally. It's the biggest fuel on demand operator in the world.
Do they do private jets by any chance?
As far as I know, no.
That's very disappointing. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's a great story, actually. So we're here in the Middle East, and we would like to know your region and the technology. What speed are your organization in, like moving with the new technology and new innovation and new space? Like, talk about not just the type of stack of technology, but also processes and innovation.
Yeah. So I can summarize this in Web3. So it's a very common terminology that we hear today. In fact, Web3 is one of the things that we're looking at the core of what we're building at Alfan. Today, when you look at the creator economy, there are so many people. As I said, everyone with a mic and a camera can become a content creator, regardless of the geographies, regardless of the age. However, there are so many limitations today, especially if you're trying to monetize your content, based on where you are, based on how old you are you financially enabled or no? But when you look at Web3, it's trying to eliminate all those limitations. So today, if you have a content creator who's like, think of someone 15, 16-year-old, how can you pay someone at that age? How can you pay underbanked creators? So we started looking at Web3, this is where everyone is heading today, I think, between AI and Web3. So think of enabling payments through crypto assets. Those are things that we're looking at Alfan.
That's amazing. And this is the new trend within. So where did this idea come from? I'm sure that you're connected to the founders and the executives team.
Yep.
Where did it come from?
The founder has been in the creator economy, in the creator industry, for so many years. He has been in this business for a while, like managing content creators. He had an agency business where basically it was like a rev share model where he has been enabling other content creators. And then being in the industry for so long, you start to realize the challenges and the opportunities in this industry. And the opportunity of building an infrastructure play for creators where you can let them focus on what they're good at, which is creating the content, and then you take off everything else off their plate and just let them focus on what they're good at, is a huge opportunity. And again, this is a $100 billion market. It's still untapped, still a blue ocean.
And it is, so your end user are actually the single person who is creating economies, right?
Who's creating content.
Creating content.
Yeah. And today, the definition of content creator is actually, it's very elastic. Anyone can become a content creator. Anyone who's trying to grow an audience online is a content creator. Today you have content creators on Facebook, you have people on LinkedIn, you have people on Instagram. Basically anyone, as I said, with a phone and a camera and a microphone can become a content creator.
And those are your end users. So you're directly focused on these. It's not a B2B model. It's literally B2C.
Yes, we're trying to enable the individuals.
That's amazing. And how do you find them responding? I mean, there's a little bit of sensitivity on the age category. My son is 8 years old and he has 100,000 followers on TikTok, which creeps me out. And so how do you balance that? The fact that content creators, like spectrum, is a little bit on the younger side.
Yeah, in fact, for us, this is an opportunity to help them understand their audiences more. So again, not all content creators are data experts. So if you have someone who's trying to understand their audience and grow their audience, different ages, especially if they're not specialized in doing this, this is at the core of our specialization. So the tools that we're building, it enables them to understand their audiences a lot more.
Very nice. I'm really looking forward to how this unfolds. Really, I have a personal interest because of my son. We're really focused on the experience of the Z Gen and Generation Alpha, which now are literally the toddlers all the way to like the 13, 14 years old. And they basically have a completely different experience of life than we've ever had. And it was really, really interesting to see companies that are actually approaching that angle. So my next question is very common for our times, post-COVID life. So as a company in Avenue Code, we in March of 2020, we went from having 4 development centers to having 1,000 development centers overnight. So everybody stayed home, and we had to take into consideration security measures, infrastructure, streamline communications, and you name it, onboard and offboard, and keeping the cultures together. So I want to know from you, how did you balance life between home and work, and embracing teamwork within the COVID pandemic?
For me, actually, that was it was a very interesting time and was an opportunity as well. I've been in the tech industry for the past 14 years, and I've been building tech companies or tech startups in so many different countries, so many different regions, and for my whole life, I had distributed teams. So I always had to work at the same day on the Indian time zone, on the States time zone, sometimes on North Africa's time zone. So I've been living this life even before COVID. So when COVID came in, that was my norm. And within my organization, I had to just, restructure things in such a way that people start to get used to it. But looking at the bigger picture, I see what happened during COVID very differently. When you look back a few years, not so far away, companies used to be, let's use this word. Companies used to brag about having tech hubs, let's say in Central Europe. Today, geographies does not matter. It doesn't matter where your resources at. You can have your resources in Egypt, in India, in the States, in Latin America. It doesn't matter. As far as you have internet, this is all what matters. So I think the transformation of the talent distribution globally changed big time. Today, I was able to see so many great engineers deciding to stay in their home countries, regardless of they're from Southeast Asia or from North Africa, versus taking an offer somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the States, because compensation started to democratize during and post-COVID, because location does not matter anymore. So I actually, in the tech industry, yes, what happened was it was not the best 2 years of our lives, but it was a huge opportunity in the tech industry to reshape.
So I'm interested about that personally, actually. So you think that compensation has globalized. So how did that affect your talent acquisition abilities? Because, regions mattered. And I understand, technology talent, it's like mining for gold. It's very rare, and you find them, you can double down on that regions. But also there was cost implications to wherever you go. So now that all regions are equal, how did that affect your model, bringing up good teams?
Yeah, I wouldn't still not all regions are equal, but the gap is closing. So today, when you're trying to hire someone, let's say in Central Europe versus hiring someone in North Africa, the compensation gap is not that massive today. So for someone like me in the tech industry, that's an opportunity. Let's say if I compare trying to build a tech hub here in Dubai versus trying to hire anywhere or hire remotely, now my biggest challenge has shifted from trying to bring talent into a specific location into trying to figure out my logistics of how can I run a distributed team with respect to sending equipment to those people in different geographies, managing hardware across different regions and so on. So it started to change from the logistics of identifying individuals and trying to bring them in one place into just sorting out the logistics of running a distributed team.
Very nicely said. So, modern CTO, like yourself, what did it change from the traditional view of a chief technology officer to what the role means today to you?
I think today there has been a term that it's not a new term, but it started to become quite popular, which is what we call the 10x engineer, or someone who can wear multiple hats, in just simple words. I think today a modern CTO is far more hands-on than what it used to in the past. Today, everyone is trying to do more with less, trying to achieve more results with less resources, with less number of people, with less money. Today, we're facing, in the tech industry in general, we're facing challenges when it comes to security, we're facing challenges when it comes to scalability, we're facing challenges when it comes to picking the right tech stack, we're facing even people management challenges. So I think today, when you look at a modern CTO, things that have changed quite significantly from the past is CTOs are far more technically hands-on and far more savvy when it comes to things like people management and strategy and resource management and so on.
So they've literally broken into their discomfort with having to be socially active with their teams. So what's your background, if you don't mind me asking?
My background is software engineering. My academic background is software engineering.
All right. And so naturally you became CTO, but the human management aspect of this is usually not easy to adapt. But
Yep.
so
It's things that I've learned over time. So I was lucky with my career journey. I've seen and I've contributed to building tech startups in different regions, in different countries. I've seen different cultures, and I'm someone who loves to read outside their comfort zone. I read about psychology, I read about management, very far away from tech. So that really helped me to, grow my people management skills, I would say. Plus, I'm someone who loves to learn. From success stories in much bigger organizations, and then try to apply those things in the organizations that I'm in. And plus, as I said, I was pretty lucky with my career journey. Like, I joined Kareem right before the Uber acquisition, so that was the biggest tech acquisition in the MENA region. So many things that I was able to learn during this process, and so many things that I learned like in my career journey in the companies that I was part of anyway.
it's very interesting. I have to say it is, you've mentioned about the psychology background as well. We at Avenue Code, we have north of 100 people, the team of 100 members that are the talent acquisition team, and 80% of them from a psychology background. Like, who would have thought that psychologists can become recruiters? But right now, with dealing with a complex spectrum of human personalities, it just led itself to that.
Yeah.
So that's so it's very interesting to see the validation in there. Well, any last words for any aspiring CTO, young, someone who's just entering the career and have the aspiration of growing the corporate ladders into technology and technology leadership? Any industry gems that you want to share with them?
Yeah, in fact, you've mentioned a great point. One of the things that I'm working on right now on the side is I'm working on a book project for young CTOs who are basically, just learning on the job. I would mention a couple of things. Building teams is one of the most important things that you would really want to focus on as a CTO. Make sure that you do have the right team and you're able to retain your team, and read a lot. Not necessarily reading about tech, but just read a lot and make it a habit, and try to socialize this within your team.
You're bringing intellectual into the technology world. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Hilal, for joining us.
Thanks.
And for our viewers, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, and we look forward to having you watch our next Leaders in Studio episode. Thank you.